In 1581, there were 5 million people living in England at the time. So that's actually smaller than the DFW area here in North Texas. This chapter is about the work situation in England, and in particular, it focused on the 1563 Statute of Apprentices, which was rolled out by Cecil. So in a previous video, I talked about Queen Elizabeth not having the vision as a leader, and even here Cecil, one of her advisors, is the one really putting forth this statute. And basically what it does is it requires every able-bodied person between the ages of 16 and 23 to be engaged in an apprenticeship, to be working, to learn a trade, to boost the economy. And there were stiff penalties for not participating in this program. You could be fined, you could be jailed, strikes weren't allowed, and all types of stiff penalties for that. The effect, according to Durant, of this Statute of Apprentices was that it opened a gap between the working poor and the owners or management who became rich through the profits that were created, because the economy did begin to take off. And you can see that in the creation of companies like the East India Company. You can see it further in the expansion and creation of financial institutions to deal with the wealth that was now accumulated. But that's not helping the working poor, and we'll see that will become an issue that develops later in history. So in 1591, there was a funeral of the Earl of Shrewsbury, and 20,000 people showed up to get financial support, to be on the dole of that Earl at that time. So it's a lot of people who are requiring financial assistance. Part of the problem is that prices were also rising, and two reasons for that Durant gives. Number one, the debasement of English currency because of all the silver that was coming from Europe, all the precious metals that were coming from the Americas. And secondly, was just the reality of monopolies who, because of their consolidation of resources and enterprises, were able to demand a higher price. Fairs apparently were very popular in England, and it was one place where you could go to sell your goods and services. So I'm a photographer, I could go sell my prints at a fair. The most popular one back in the day was Bartholomew Fair, which would be fascinating to learn more about. But keep in mind, because I'm a photographer in Fort Worth, Texas, I am not allowed to go sell my prints in Arlington at a fair there, or in Dallas at a fair there. I can only sell it at fairs here in Fort Worth. A couple other historical notes. The post office was founded in 1517, but it was only used for government services. One of my favorite scenes in movies, by the way, is in Rain Man, where Tom Cruise is waiting in the lobby, I think at the psychiatrist's office. His brother is back there, and there's some old guy in the lobby who's holding forth, and nobody's listening, but he's holding forth about the Pony Express and the delivery of mail. And sometimes I look at that and think, that's going to be me when I'm 85. Anyway, a taste of that here in 2019. The post office was established in 1517. Coaches, the things pulled by horses, were introduced in 1564, but by 1634, the government banned them for common people because there was too much congestion in the roads. So even back then, they were fighting with traffic. So that's the main point of this chapter, is the division between the working poor and the profits, which were becoming significant, that were generated by the captains of industry and those who were engaging in significant trade. So next time we'll take a look at the role of schools in England.